Hey everyone, welcome back to my channel. I'm Kayla and it's time to crack into a good book. So I thought I would actually try to do a vlog for once. I clearly have not done one before, but we are currently house sitting for my fiance's parents this weekend, so I was like, I mean, sure, why not? This is a nice setting. It's, you know, lots of, it's a pretty nice area and I actually get to go outside, so that's exciting. And we've got all sorts of fun little critters here, like there's Nugget staring at me from inside. He wants to join me, I'm sure. And then, oh, there's one of the cats. No idea what I'm doing with this, so it'll be an experience for all of us. But right now I am currently reading One Way by S.J. Morden, so I am doing this as a buddy read with Kat from Brews and Reviews. So we're trying to finish this in like 3 days. And it's, you know, it's like a 330-page book, so that's not that bad. But yeah, so basically this is like a sci-fi where our main character, Frank, is a father, architect, and murderer, and he's recruited for the mission to Mars with the promise of a better life along with 7 of his most notorious fellow inmates. But basically, I think once they get there, there's accidents happening, and our main character thinks that they're not actually accidents. And it's like, as the list of suspects grows shorter, it's up to Frank to uncover the terrible truth before it's too late. So that sounds kind of like a closed circle murder mystery type thing. So far, I've read 4 chapters, and it seems pretty good so far. Basically, not much has happened. Frank is just starting to train for his, you know, excursion to Mars, I guess. So, yeah, we'll see how that goes. So I finished the first 10 chapters of the book so far, and we just arrived at Mars, and we kind of have our first indication that something is, you know, not quite right. Like, basically some of their supplies are, you know, not where they should be. So given just like the plot on the book and, you know, talking about accidents mounting up, I don't know if this is like sabotage or if it was genuinely an accident, but yeah, so it's certainly picked up a bit. I think, you know, now that we've arrived at Mars, it'll be kind of fast-paced. But yeah, like, the training definitely didn't last as long as it probably should have, just like in terms of time within the book. Like, I feel like we spent a good amount of time covering the training, but yeah, so I'm a little worried for our characters. I don't feel like they're necessarily prepared. We, like, have kind of gotten some background on some of the other characters. Like, we get hints of our main character and, like, why he was actually arrested, and then we have one character who is a former doctor and was arrested for mercy killing patients, I think. So I don't know if that was like actual mercy kills or if this doctor was kind of taking patients' lives into, you know, her own hands and actually murdering them. And then we have like a former white supremacist, and one of the other characters killed like 26 people or something like that, but it's like we're kind of getting hints of what actually happened, so that's kind of interesting. But other than that, like, I don't really have a great sense of the other characters. What's funny is like one of the chapters I just read had a little bit of rundown of our main character's stats, I guess, like birthday, you know, arrest date, stuff about his ex-wife and son and stuff. But what was kind of funny was, like, I mean, so this takes place in 2047, and our character is like, what, 51, I think. So, you know, it's like he was born in 1996, and it was kind of like, oh, okay, well, he's, you know, obviously this takes place in the future, but like birth date wise, I was born earlier than he was, so that's kind of just weird to think about. It's good so far. I'm excited to, that's all I'm, you know, all we're reading for today, so we'll see how it goes in the next couple of days. It's nice to just generally be outside. There's all sorts of noises from various wildlife. There's like a whole bunch of giant bumblebees just kind of flying around, and one of them buzzed my head, which is like, that was a little too close for comfort. And then there's a couple of hummingbird feeders, and I keep trying to get like some footage of one of the hummingbirds, but it's, you know, they're fast and they don't like me moving around to try to pick up my camera and train it on them. So, you know, hopefully at some point I can get a clip of a hummingbird. God, last night Ivy's parents have a couple of terriers, and they were outside and just like barking up a storm, and so we're like, okay, well, what's going on? So we were going to swap Samus out, but then, you know, like Ivy started yelling all of a sudden. I was like, what's going on? It turned out thankfully to just be a black snake, but it was pissed. It was like kind of, you know, rearing up and was very angry at the dogs. And at first we thought it was a copperhead, so that obviously would have been much worse. And you know, the terriers certainly would have tried to fight it off. So it's a good thing no one got bitten by a snake. So, you know, that's good. But yeah, so thankfully just a black snake, and it kind of slithered off once we got all the dogs inside, but that was a bit stressful for a moment there. It's about lunchtime, so I'll probably make some lunch here and then read. I'm doing another buddy read of Legacy of Ash, and it's kind of slow so far, so I might try to get back into that, or I might also finish up the Entity game by Shearin, which I had started a couple days ago. So we'll see. We'll see what I'm in the mood for after lunch.
Sammy, Samus, come here. Yes, hello.
So it's several hours after I ate lunch. Let's see, I played some Animal Crossing, and I made this very delightful flag and shirt that is this like really terrible artwork of an octopus. So that's pretty fabulous. I am not at all artistically talented, so I'm proud of myself for that. Let's see, I finished the Entity game by Shearin, and I'm not sure what I'm going to rate it. Maybe like 3.5 or 4 stars. I feel like it wasn't quite as good as some of her other books. Like, it's kind of a completely different tone. She's got the SPI files, it's like an urban fantasy series that's pretty funny. And then she's got the Rain Benares series that's more high fantasy, but those two series kind of overlap some. But this one I think has a completely different tone. It's much more serious. Basically, the premise is like a U.S. senator and his aide both simultaneously die of heart attacks, and, you know, the FBI investigates and kind of realize that something suspicious is happening, so they call in like this special team, and our main character, Aurora, is like a consultant, I think, and in her family they have psychometric powers, I think, so basically she can read objects and people, so she can like pick up like a dead guy's watch or something and kind of relive his last moments or whatever. So she's helping out with this murder investigation because the U.S. senator who was murdered was like the friend of her grandfather, and then they kind of uncover some secret like government plots and projects and things like that. So yeah, I mean, it was still good, but I feel like, I mean, obviously, like I kind of mentioned, it was a much more serious tone, so I don't know, I kind of missed the humor of the other two series that she's done, but like I still enjoyed it, and we'll keep reading. Like, this is the sort of premise that I really enjoy. I'm a big fan of, you know, like FBI people with special powers investigating murder mysteries, so yeah, I definitely like that. I just read like about 65 pages or so of Legacy of Ash, so I'm doing this as a buddy read, and I don't know, I feel like I'm having a really hard time getting into it so far. like none of the characters other than this one of the main characters, Victor Akadra, I think, and he's like a special warrior that has some sort of shadow powers. Like, other than him, everybody else kind of seems to blend together. I guess one of, I think, the other main characters that we're supposed to follow, Kellen, I don't know if that's right, she seems like really aloof and kind of condescending and, I don't know, weird. So we've got like those two characters, but everybody else kind of blends together, and I honestly can't keep everyone straight. And so I'm like 150 pages into this now, and it's just okay so far. Not loving it as much as I hoped, so that's a bummer because this is an 800 page book, so that'll be a little tough to get into. But I think what I'm going to do is read about like 5 chapters per day, and hopefully that'll help me get into it a little bit more and just like keep making some progress through it. So we shall see. Now I think I'm going to maybe start either Network Effect or Little Secrets, and I brought both of those with me, and then obviously I have my Kindle, but you know, we're only here for a couple of days, but I had some stress about how many books to bring. I always want to overpack, like, the thought of being without a book is just super stressful for me, and like, you know, even though I have my Kindle, I was like, oh, well, how many books do I need to bring? So I had like the 2 physical books that I'm doing as buddy reads, and then, you know, I obviously brought those other Network Effect and Little Secrets are both physical, so I have 4 physical books with me and my entire Kindle, which there's kind of an embarrassingly large amount of unread Kindle books, but I think most of them I ended up getting for free or on sale or whatever. But yeah, I don't know if anybody else can relate to that, of the stress of needing to have enough books on your trips. It's still a lovely day outside. It's just nice to actually be outside. I feel like, you know, obviously with quarantine, we're in our like apartment, and it just gets old after a little bit. So I'm definitely taking advantage of all of this outdoors space. There's the pond. There's Ivy and Samus over there. Ivy's over there currently playing Civ 6. What are you playing as?
Netherlands.
He's playing as the Netherlands. So he's excited about his start in that. So that's fun for all of us. Samus is exploring and trying to investigate the cats, but she's a little scared, and she's also trying to eat some of the geese. So yeah, it's a fun outdoor party out here. Hey, Hallie. Yeah. Alright, so it is clearly the next morning. I haven't done any reading yet so far today. Last night I read 100-something pages of Network Effect, and it's pretty good so far. I obviously love Murderbot, but I don't know, for some reason I'm having a little bit of a hard time getting into the book. I don't know if it's just because like I don't entirely remember what happened in the last novella or what, or if I just like wasn't really in the mood to read yesterday afternoon. Last night we mostly played some Mario Kart 8 with friends and watched a little bit of Gladiator on TV. It's kind of funny, like they're, you know, like movies or like shows or whatever that I own, I still will watch on TV if they're on with commercials, which like makes no sense because I could just like watch them without commercials. But yeah, so we watched a little bit of Gladiator yesterday, and I kind of want to actually watch the full thing. Like we basically saw, I think, the first actual Gladiator fight, and then you know, we played Mario Kart, and then came back at the very end for the final fight with Maximus. So I mean, it's a great movie. This morning we obviously had some breakfast. We had some like delicious bacon, egg, and cheese sandwiches, which was very filling. Ivy really fed the donkey, so I got some good footage there, hopefully. The one that I pet was Tina, and then the one making all sorts of noises, I think, was Stella. They're cute. Some of them are more tame than others. And then we took a walk down the driveway to get the mail with Samus, and she was very pleased about that. But it is already pretty warm. It's, I think, mid-70s and, you know, decent amount of humidity, but I think it's supposed to be like 90 degrees today. So I don't know how much outside reading I'm going to do. It's a little toasty, and I got a couple of mosquito bites yesterday, which, like, thankfully have not gotten gigantic. I'm like horribly allergic to bug bites, which is a pain in the butt. The dogs are barking inside, obviously. I think my plan for today will be to read, I'll probably read One Way first, then maybe do a little bit of Legacy of Ash, hopefully finish up Network Effect. I think we were talking about playing some Splatoon 2. There's a Splatfest next weekend, so we gotta prepare ourselves for that. I think it's Team Mayo versus Team Ketchup, and I chose Team Ketchup because I hate mayo. So, you know, thrilling plans for today. So majestic. Got some feels. So it's at like middle afternoon now. I've read 10 more chapters of One Way, and it's definitely picking up quite a bit. Like, we're starting to see several accidents happening, and right now it's hard to tell if they're like genuine accidents or if there's like some sort of sabotage going on, and if so, like who might be doing it and why. I'm enjoying the writing for sure. I feel like none of the characters are super sympathetic right now. It's still like really interesting and engaging. It just kind of makes me think, like, I don't know, I feel like I would not be good at space travel. Just the thought of it just really terrifies me for some reason. Like, I would much rather go in the ocean and explore down there instead of going to space. But yeah, there's just something about all of these things going wrong that's just like, no, I could not handle that. It's interesting just like seeing them try to build everything and like form a habitable space. There's a whole bunch of obstacles that they have to overcome, and like at one point that it had mentioned like tornadoes, and I was like, of all the natural disasters, I feel like tornadoes kind of scare me the most for whatever reason. These 10 chapters are basically all I've read today. I just haven't really been in a big reading mood. I've felt kind of like a slug today, honestly. Like, I actually had to kind of go lay down for a little bit of a nap. Not that I actually fell asleep because I stuck at napping, but I don't know. Something about the afternoon. I just feel lethargic.
Hey, Samus. Samus, are you ready to go somewhere? Yes.
So it is the evening, and sorry about the lighting, but it's night, and there's only so much you can do with lights inside. But anyway, so I read 5 chapters of Legacy of Ash, and I don't know, it's still sort of the same sort of stuff where I can't really get into it all that much. Like, there's nothing specifically wrong with it, but it's just like, I don't know, I'm just not super excited about it, I guess. Something did happen at the end of the last chapter that I read today, and that kind of brought up some interesting moments, so I'm kind of intrigued to see what happens there. It's kind of one of the side characters, possibly, I don't know, not being as harmed as I would have expected, so I'm intrigued by that for sure. And then I just finished Network Effect, and it was awesome. I think, I don't know if that was last night or this morning or whatever, that I had kind of mentioned that I was struggling a little bit to get into it, but I think last night I maybe just wasn't quite in the mood for reading. But I obviously finished it up today, and it definitely picks up quite a bit. I think what helped was we get an old friend back. I just enjoy so much seeing how Murderbot interacts with other bots and transports and things like that. There's something about those relationships that I just find super intriguing. So yeah, I mean, it was great. I loved that. There was a crazy plot line that I wasn't really anticipating that came up, and I'm super intrigued, and just generally the ending, I obviously want to keep reading more Murderbot. So this was great. I'm probably going to give it, 4.5 or 5 stars. I mean, it just, we all know. I've talked about the Murderbot books before on my channel, but it's great. What I'm going to do now is probably start Little Secrets by Jennifer Hillier. I had read Jar of Hearts by her last year, something like that, in the past 2 years, and it was pretty good. I've heard generally pretty positive things about this book, so I'm excited for that. It's more of an adult thriller. I don't specifically remember what it's actually about, but I'm kind of, I don't know, I feel like I could be in the mood for a good thriller, so I'm excited to see how that goes. So I had a Guinness, and it was and I always pour it into a glass, but it was one of those tall cans that have a little plastic ball inside of them to, I guess, help it do the proper Guinness-y, I don't know, filtering thing from once you pour it down. Hopefully, I don't know what to even call it, but hopefully you know what I'm talking about. But that reminds me of a story from, I think that was a couple of years ago over spring break. I was with my family. So it was my parents, my sister, and my nephew. And so the ball inside of the can kind of is basically the same sort of action as a spray paint. So what my sister had done was she grabbed herself a can of Guinness and started shaking it like it was a spray paint can. And I just remember my dad and I looking at her in horror, being what are you doing? And thankfully, I guess we caught her before she actually opened it. Otherwise, it would have been beer everywhere. But honestly, that would have been really funny as well. But so basically, every time I have a Guinness from one of those types of cans, I will send a text in our family group text, and I'm so should I shake this or not? But yeah, so I figured I would share that because I thought that was funny and continue to find it funny years later. So it is 2 days after I last checked in. We're obviously back at our place now, and I don't know, I just didn't really feel like filming yesterday. I was just tired, and it's kind of a little sad to come back to our apartment. Don't get me wrong, it's our apartment is nice, but it's just, we have upstairs neighbors, downstairs neighbors, and it's just a lot of noise. It was definitely nice to be able to get out and actually be outside without seeing people. So I don't know, it was kind of just sad to come back. It's kind of frustrating. One of our downstairs neighbors is a teenage boy, and I'm sure he's bored as hell, but I swear this kid I think he is playing video games and just yelling into his headset. And it would be one thing if that was in the evenings or whatever, but it's during the day when I'm trying to work on stuff, and it's just a little frustrating at times. And this kid's bedroom, I think, is directly under our second bedroom, which is where I am right now. And that's where I have my desk and everything set up, so it's just frustrating. It's not I can really go anywhere either. Yesterday I didn't do much reading until the afternoon. So I finished One Way, and I don't know, it was just kind of disappointing. Like, I feel like this could have been so much better than it was. Like, it wasn't bad, but I don't know, just like the overall accidents and like that storyline just wasn't as motivating, I guess, as I had hoped for. So I think Kat and I were both a little bit disappointed in this, unfortunately. But like, I mean, it's still probably like a 3.5 star read. I'll need to kind of sit with my thoughts a little bit on that. Kat totally predicted what was going to happen, and we're both just kind of like, well, that's a bummer. I read 5 more chapters of Legacy of Ash, and it's still like, you know, even though I had mentioned, I think there was like an exciting moment that happened at the end of the last chapter I had read, whatever, like in my last check-in. I don't know, it didn't really feed off of that as much as I was really hoping for. So it's just kind of going back to the same, like it's not bad, but I'm having a really hard time distinguishing all the characters. And like, you know, based on the back of the book, it kind of mentions these 3 main characters, and I kind of figured that we would follow them exclusively. But that's not really the case. We have a whole cast of characters, and I mean, it would be one thing if it was easy to distinguish between all of them, but it's not. Like, they all kind of just blend together, and I can't tell you who anybody really is. So that's a little bit difficult to deal with. And, you know, now I'm like, I don't know, 200 something pages into it, and it's just, I don't know, I hope it picks up. But this is kind of a slog so far, unfortunately. I don't know if I ever said, but I'm buddy reading Legacy of Ash with Mahalia from Nerd It This Way, I think, and I'll leave her channel link down below. But I ended up finishing Little Secrets last night. This was really good. I just kind of blew through it. It is definitely like deals with some heavy topics. It's a thriller where our main character's son is kidnapped, and like, we follow them, I think a year or so later. You know, the search has gone cold and there's issues with their marriage. And our main character has hired a private investigator, and essentially, you know, our main character learns that her husband is having an affair, and she's not super happy about that. Our main character kind of wants to fix this problem. So that's all I'll say about it. But yeah, I mean, there were definitely some content warnings for, I mean, like child abduction, suicidal thoughts, but I thought this was really great. I am very pleased with where it ended up. I definitely predicted some things, but you know, I liked being able to pick up on clues and make a guess, I guess, about you know, where I thought it was going. So I enjoyed this one for sure. What else did I even do? We played some D&D in the afternoon, which was fun, but like, oh my god, I am either horrendously bad at rolling dice, or my dice are actually cursed, because I swear, so I'm playing as like a half-elf bard. I think my musical instrument is the bagpipes, of course, but I swear, like, I have tried multiple times to throw a dagger, and I think every single time I have rolled a 1. So basically what has happened is, as my character is going to pull the dagger to throw it out, I instead grab my bagpipes and end up just twirling around. So I don't know why I'm so bad at rolling dice, but evidently I am. We ended up watching, I think it's called Dangerous Lies on Netflix. It's one of their new movies with, I think her name is Camila Mendez. She plays Veronica in Riverdale. But it's kind of like a similar-ish plot to Knives Out, where you have this older fellow who ends up dying, and there's like a caretaker involved. And it definitely like didn't go in the direction I expected, so that was kind of nice. It's like an hour and a half, so I don't regret my time with it. I think Knives Out is better, but you know, this was still pretty enjoyable. I've also been kind of contemplating, and I put a poll out on Twitter to see if there was much interest in this, but I'm a huge fan of the Olympics, and I'm so bummed that they've obviously been postponed this year until next year. But I was kind of thinking about creating my own readathon based on the various sporting events in the Olympics. But I mean, the Summer Olympics have a lot of events and a lot of sports, so I'm not really sure how I want to do it, but it seems like there's enough interest for me to start creating something. But I'm kind of thinking, like, I don't know if people would want to just try to do all the sports, or if like people would be interested in just specific sports, or what, because, you know, obviously within like gymnastics, for instance, there's multiple like categories within that, you know, like bars, beam, floor, etc. So like, I feel like I might make a choose your own adventure here where, you know, you can choose how specific you want to go, basically. And I kind of want to do options of, like, do you want to compete for medals? And, you know, obviously, like, I think what I would probably do is for gold, you would have to read like 3 books or something in that category. For silver, you'd read 2 or something like that, kind of similar to the newts, I guess, that readathon. But yeah, I feel like that could be fun. I want to make it flexible enough so that, like, you know, people don't have to read a whole bunch of books to succeed. So I think, like, one way I could do it would be to, like, go very specific into the sports. So each of, like, the events, and you can do your medals or whatever. Another way would just be, like, very generally, like, gymnastics or swimming, you know, and then have medals that way, or just, like, and then maybe the third option, if people don't want to necessarily go for medals and read multiple books in the same category, just maybe, like, you know, if you do it, you win a gold medal, something like that. So, you know, you can choose how specific you want to be and how many books you want to read. So I'm kind of thinking about that, but, you know, if anybody has thoughts, certainly let me know. For the weekend, I got some exciting book mail. So I had actually won this in a giveaway from Book Riot, and I am super pleased that this is a finished copy of the Southern Book Club's Guide to Slaying Vampires. So yeah, that's awesome. Hopefully I can get to it pretty soon here, but I was super excited about that. I kind of wrap things up here. You know, this was my first attempt at vlogging, so hopefully it's not too terrible. I don't know if it's something I necessarily want to do fairly frequently, because I feel like sometimes I was like, I don't really want to check it. But, you know, such is life. I guess just let me know in the comments what you think of this vlog, and did I do a good job? Should I keep doing it in the future? If anyone has any thoughts about that Olympics readathon that I'm wanting to create, just definitely let me know. That would be helpful. With that, I hope you're having an excellent day and are reading something awesome. If you enjoyed this video, feel free to give it a big thumbs up, as that would certainly help me out. But with that, I think I'm going to wrap it up here and see you in the next one.